So when should you add another crew? When do you put that second truck out there or that third truck out there? When do you grow past the one truck operation? That is the million-dollar question. Hi, I'm Wayne Bowes, Profits Unlimited. I've been business coach since 1990, and I know that was something I struggled with when I was, in the small stages of my company as well, is when do I add that crew? How do we go about, gaining the confidence to say, all right, when's enough work? When's somebody ready to do it? That's what I want to talk about a little bit in this talk today, is how I found the best way to move along in my business to feel confident in adding that crew, basically. So first thing you think about is, when do I have enough work? A big mistake that I made was trying to get too much work, trying to have that crew, if you will, full of work by the time I was either going to get out of the truck myself, and that's a completely different discussion than what we're having today, or adding just another crew on to help get more work done, to get more profit dollars coming into my business. And let me say this first of all, when you add a crew, the first thing you got to understand as a business owner is nobody's going to do it like you do. Just the way it is. You can have proper training, you have great help, but the reality of it is you've got to be willing to accept the fact that there's more than one way to do the job right. Now, you want the job done in the bid hours, and you want the job done according to your company policies and procedures, but you've got to give that person the flexibility that you're going to trust with that crew, and that all those jobs, right, that you've went out and sold, you've got to give them the confidence that, hey, do it your way, but do it according to company policy. And that starts with how they're trained. Have you taken the time to properly train and educate somebody on what you want your company policy to be? Because a lot of times you'll say, well, man, I just don't have the right person. Well, maybe you've got the right person, but you just don't have the right clone, if you will. And that's what we're going to talk about today as well. So one of the common mistakes we make, other than trying to find a clone, is thinking, hey, when's the perfect time to do it? Let me say this, there really isn't a perfect time to do it. Don't think you got to sell a full week's worth of work or a full 5 days, 6 days, whatever your normal work week looks like. Don't think you got to fill that to capacity to add that crew, because the best thing that you can do for that new crew leader that you're going to put in position is not put them under the stress of time. So start them off with a lighter route, if you will, and then let them work into understanding their role as a crew leader, even if they come to you as an experienced person, which sometimes is good, sometimes can be bad, is what I've found. But the reality of it is, don't put them under the time of pressure to create all these jobs and get all these jobs completed when they're trying to learn to be a manager and not just a crew person. That is a big mistake that a lot of companies make. That's a mistake that I made. So that's where, when you say, what's the perfect time? For me, I think the perfect time is when you're about 70% capacity for that crew, so they have time to not only manage the crew, but also manage themselves on how they're going to manage the crew. And I hope that side of it makes sense. You're not going to have the perfect employee. Don't look for that, okay? Again, nobody's going to do it exactly like you, but the perfect employee is going to be the person that shares your company vision, understands the purpose of the company, and that is first and foremost to make a profit. But going about making a profit has to be with your company policies and procedures. That's why I said sometimes we look too hard for that clone, when the reality of it is all we need is somebody shares the same vision that you do as far as what the job needs to look like, the quality of the work, dependability of the work, and how to treat the customers. But past that, let them do the job the way you know they've been trained, but let them do it their own way. And that is something that's really hard to release as an owner, is when you delegate the responsibility of the job, but also delegate the authority to get the job done their way. And, transitionally, how's that happen? It's just a matter of you saying, hey, Mike or Susie, here's the keys, here's the truck, here's the route, here's your help. I want you to manage this crew, and I want you to manage these accounts. And know that there's going to be some issues along the way, but always remember this. If you've got something that you want corrected, let them make that decision. If it's not the way you think it should have been handled, do not criticize them in front of the entire crew. Wait till the crew's out, or pull them off to the side and say, hey, this is how I want you to handle that next time, and here's why. Okay? That's how you can transition to adding crews that have the confidence to go out and do the job without the fear of screwing up, and you knowing that, oh God, what's Wayne going to do now kind of concept. Know that there's going to be decisions that are made that may not be the same decision that you would make, but as long as the customer's happy, it's within the hours of the job that have been bid, then let that move along and let that crew leader feel confident in that decision. But if it's something that you want done differently because it's outside of what your normal scope of policies and procedures are going to be, make that correction. Tell them why you're making that correction and why you don't want it done like that again. I think you'll find you'll be much more successful with that. So as a summary on this, when's the best time to add a crew? Number one, in my opinion, is don't try to sell to capacity. Sell about 70% capacity. Don't put the pressure of time on somebody when you're putting them to a crew lead position. Again, even if they're coming from another company with experience, give them the opportunity to do it their way based on the training that you've given them to do it the company way. Hope that helps. If you got any comments, be sure to let me know below, and be sure to subscribe if you like what you're hearing. We'll see you next time.